For many of us, one of the worst things imaginable would be for one of our loved ones to go missing. The unknown, the uncertainty, and the prolonged hope are all a recipe for the heartache that comes with losing a loved one and not knowing if or how temporary it may be. News reports, leaflets, and community searches can still sometimes pull up short. For most, this is a horror beyond what they could imagine, though of course, not all disappearances are what they may seem. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we will be taking a look at 3 missing person cases and the very different stories behind each of them. Police drone finds fugitive who has been living in a cave for 17 years. When we hear of a missing person, our instinct is to feel disappointment, concern, and as much sympathy we can muster for who we assume is the victim. This case might turn your opinions on its head, as not every missing person has been kidnapped, held hostage, or hidden away against their will. In fact, Song Mujiang was searched for by many for 17 years, though he certainly did not want to be found. Mujiang is a fugitive, on the run, and had tucked himself away from the sights of law enforcement. Mujiang was arrested several years ago with human trafficking charges but escaped and stayed hidden for 17 years in a secret cave. The Yongshan County Police were successful in finding the man after they employed a drone to help them out. It was reported that about a month before they found Mujiang, a group of people searching for him received a tip pointing them in the right direction to the mountain range sat just beside his hometown. This tip significantly helped to propel the search for Mujiang further. The mission initially started on foot, looking for Mujiang by making their way through the mountain range. However, working through the dense network of plants, wildlife, and different foliage did not make for a simple hike. Mujiang had plenty of time to work his way through to a cave, and the wildlife plenty of time to keep growing after his way through. So the team were met with a hefty challenge, with the parts of the mountain areas that were a little trickier to access. That is where the drone comes in. This difficult terrain was not going to halt the search of this fugitive, as the team sent a drone to search the area. It was 5 hours of flying the drone and letting it scan the area before something unusual was spotted. Upon first inspection, the team thought they had spotted some blue tile, which certainly looked more than a little out of place amongst the greenery. Between the remote location and the unusual colours, the team thought they might have found Mujiang in some sort of seemingly improvised DIY shelter. After this first sighting, the team took a closer glance. This is when they noticed traces of activity and domestic garbage. Now they had confirmed there was someone living in this space. Combined with the tip that Mujiang was in the area, the difficult and treacherous hour-long hike was well worth the journey. Police approached the cave from 3 separate groups before they found Mujiang in the rubbish-filled cave, spanning 22 square feet. Not only was Mujiang living in barely habitable conditions, but the fugitive had also lost some of his ability to communicate following so much time in isolation. Since this recapture effort in 2019, Mujiang has been sent back to prison after 17 years, hiding out just behind his hometown. The disappearance of Margaret Ellen Fox. Whilst some people tucked out of sight are indeed fugitives, the next case is more likely to pull at your heartstrings as we look into the disappearance of Margaret Ellen Fox, a young girl who was last seen when she was just 14. It was 1974 in Burlington, New Jersey, when Margaret disappeared. Like many young teen girls, she was on her way to a babysitting job, though unfortunately for Margaret, things took an unexpected turn for the worst. The young girl was on her way to meet a man who had named himself as John Marshall. Margaret had placed an ad for her babysitting services, which is how she had met the so-called John Marshall. Marshall had said he needed a babysitter for the coming weekend, but had delayed or otherwise cancelled several initial meetings with her. When she eventually had plans to meet with the man, he had said that he would meet her in a red Volkswagen in Mount Holly. Young Miss Fox walked beside her sister to the bus stop to make her way to Mount Holly. Her sister watched her get onto the bus, and witnesses have reported having seen her near the high streets once she reached Mount Holly, though she has not been seen since these few sightings. Did she even make it to the alleged John Marshall? We do know that not long after Margaret had been reported to be missing, the police had begun to track and record all calls both in and out of the family home in order to keep tabs on any new leads or necessary information. It was a good job they did, as the family did receive a ransom call demanding $10,000 for Margaret's safe return. The call went as follows: "10,000 might be a lot of bread, but your daughter's life is the buttered topping." It was Margaret's mother who was on the other end of this harrowing phone call. Years later, we still don't know who made this call. It's assumed that the unknown caller and the abductor is one of the same, though they had no clues as to who this may be. The investigation surrounding this disappearance only continued to raise further questions. The number Marshall had given to Margaret turned out to belong to a Lumberton supermarket. This, of course, immediately raised suspicion amongst the authorities. After this, several other parents came forward saying their young teen daughters had had men trying to lure them with false job offers. To this day, the identity of John Marshall remains a mystery. With no further leads and years of efforts, the FBI and Burlington City Police Department have shifted their approach. Despite the lack of arrests, the department has not given up all hope. You can find the recording of the ransom call on the FBI website, uploaded in the hope that someone will recognize the voice of the abductor. The disappearance of Olivia Samantha Fowler. For some people, a staggered or unpredictable home life can make witnesses more difficult to find or sometimes less reliable. In the case of Olivia Samantha Fowler, some of her circumstances made her disappearance harder to notice. The 26-year-old woman was last seen on August 13th in 2021 in Meriwether County, Georgia. What was perhaps working against her case the most was her living situation. Olivia did not have any stable housing at the time of her disappearance, instead splitting her time between her mother's Manchester house and her father's in Woodbury. The journey between these two homes was just 15 minutes. Meanwhile, her 3 children lived with her cousin. Between the different houses and her boyfriend's home, she had ties across multiple counties: Meriwether, Harris, Talbot, and Upson, making tracking her down all the more difficult. It was the morning of August 12th, a day before her last sighting, that her sister had interacted with Olivia in their mother's home. Her sister did not report any alarm bells or unusual behavior within these conversations. Later that day, Olivia arrived at her boyfriend's house, located just outside of Manchester. As he went to bed for the evening, she left to have a cigarette on the porch before leaving his place at around 2 a.m. He had said she was gone when he woke in the morning, and some locals reported having seen her around 7:30 a.m. The last sighting that we have of Olivia was then at 10:30 on the morning of the 13th, according to a Georgia Department of Natural Resources ranger. It was then on the 14th of August 2021 that her family placed a missing person report, though it would take until the May of 2022 for the FBI to become involved in the case. Her family say that it is out of character for her to leave without a purse, phone, or keys, but believe she may have been heading to the Cove, a place along the Flint River. After dozens of leads, we still have no idea what might have happened to this young woman. Her unsolved case still has plenty of missing details. Hopefully, if more of these are uncovered, it could lead to her safe return. But what do you make of these missing persons cases? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.